Okay, now we're going to be looking at 1.3 operating systems. So the role of an operating system. An operating system is a system software that manages the general operations of a computer system. So let's look at the first point. Helps the user interact with the computer through a user interface. So as you can see, we have a Windows 10 interface here. Helps save, organize, find and delete files. Manages input, output and backing devices. Provides security and prevents unauthorized access to a computer system. Allows users to load, run, store applications. Also resolves errors occurring with applications. Decides what should be loaded and deleted from the memory. So here's a typical exam question. Describe the main functions of the operating system. So keywords, you've got the user interface, you've got security, files, memory, applications, input, output and storage devices. The operating system provides a user interface the operating system provides a user interface which allows the user to interact with the system. In addition, the operating system provides security and prevents unauthorized access to the system. Files and folders can be created and organized. Furthermore, the operating system allows users to load, run and store applications, also decides what should be loaded into the computer memory, into the random access memory. The operating system also manages the input, output and storage devices. So examples of operating systems. So using a graphical user interface, which we'll talk about in a moment. So we have Windows, as you can see the interface is here. Apple operating system. So Linux, which is another operating system, which is a free type of operating system, don't have to pay for it. And you can also have operating systems on your mobile phone, on your smartphone. So Android, Jelly Bean, as you can see, provides the user with an interface to interact with. So graphical user interface, GUIs, is a user interface built around graphics. It's got four main features. Windows, areas for displaying information, as you can see here, you got window. Icons, small images used to represent files, folders or applications. Menus, list of options or applications users can select from. Pointers, so mouse pointer can be used to select and open files, applications. So the key word you have to remember is WIMP, Windows, icons, menus and pointers. So graphical user interfaces are quite easy to use due to the visual nature of the interface. The user has a lot of visual clues as to what things do. So for example, the recycle bin looks like a bin, so that's the clue, that's the place where you place a file if you want a file to be deleted. We also have post-graphical user interfaces, which uses a touchscreen technology. So post-graphical user interfaces allow the users to touch the screen in order to interact with the system. Post-graphical user interfaces allow the use of pinching, scrolling and expanding, maybe to zoom in or to scroll down on text. So further examples of graphical user interfaces. So we've got the Xbox console, Windows operating system, Apple operating system, and then some interfaces on your smartphone. So the second type of interface a user could interact with is a CLI, which stands for Command Line Interface. So the command line interface will normally be a black screen. The only input device that can be used with a command line interface is a keyboard. So the CLI requires a user to enter command prompts to interact with their computer. So we've got some examples here. So these are the commands, for example, which you have to type in the computer system using a keyboard in order to interact. So CLIs are normally used by expert users as it's more complicated to use. CLI is not restricted to a number of predetermined options. So with a graphical user interface, you are restricted to menu options or icons which you can select. The CLI, you're not restricted to any predetermined options, so it depends on what you basically type in, so you have more freedom. So let's look at the advantages and disadvantages of both types of interface, so graphical user interface and command line interface. So the advantage of the graphical user interface is the user does not need to learn any commands. The interface is easier to use compared to the CLI. You can use a pointing device to click and select icons or menu options. Disadvantage is it takes up more memory and more storage space than a CLI interface. Requires an operating system to operate. So the advantage to the CLI, the user has more freedom to use specific commands in interacting with the computer, as you're not restricted to predefined options. It is possible to alter computer settings. The disadvantage is the user is required to learn commands. Commands must be typed in without any mistakes. There are no visual aids. Okay, so a typical exam question. Discuss the difference between a CLI, command line interface, and a GUI, a graphical user interface. So keywords, you've got windows, icons, menus, and pointers, so that spells out WIMP. Visual aids, learn, command prompts, predetermined options, expert users. So the graphical user interface allows a user to interact with the interface by using a pointer to select windows, icons, and menu options. The graphical user interface will have a visual aids which will make it easier for users to learn how to use the interface. On the other hand, users are required to enter command prompts to interact with the CLI command line interface. The command prompts have to be learned by the user and are entered correctly. This would make the CLI interface more challenging for the user to learn. However, the advantage of using the CLI for expert users is that you are not restricted to predetermined options, which would not be the case in GUI, graphical user interface. This would allow for greater freedom when using CLI.